that's one of the ironies in Gossip Girl Psycho Killer, is that even when Serena goes completely crazy and starts murdering people, everyone wants to do what she's doing, and Jenny in particular is following her around and trying to, sort of thinking about killing people, but she never really quite manages to do it. And it's sort of similar to the Jenny in the first books, who always kind of winds up in the middle of the party, but then something goes wrong. And so, yes, of course, when Serena becomes a murderer, then everyone has to become a murderer. Well, in Gossip Girl Psycho Killer, I knew that I wanted to, I had to have people die, but I had a hard time with, I didn't want to kill off my main characters because I need them maybe to survive for other books. Although I knew I knew I wanted something bad to happen to Chuck because he deserves it. He's not the same Chuck as in the television show. In the books, he's kind of more despicable, and you want him to die, especially in the first book. So I don't want to give away anything, but I did know that by the end, something very bad has to happen to Chuck. And Chuck also is so despicable. He seems like he could maybe rise up from the dead and come back and do terrible things. But so I did have to invent some characters just to kill them, and in a way that has this sort of horror movie. It's very much like a slasher film where you meet somebody for 5 seconds and then the next thing you know they're dead. And so, and it was fun for me because I was working with the text of the first book. It was fun to write in new characters and to create these new scenes, even if I had to kill them off. I knew after I finished writing Gossip Girl Psycho Killer that lots of people might look at it try to read into it, sort of a literary criticism about, but I don't know about this Upper East Side society or even these kinds of books about wealthy teenagers. But because it was me mashing up my own book, and whereas Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, that's a mashup by another author of a Jane Austen novel. This is my own mashup of my own work. It's not really, it's almost like me kind of satirizing myself. And I think it's an amazing thing to be able to do. Now that Gossip Girl has been on TV for 5 years, it's really difficult for me to even see the characters just as people on a page. I immediately envision Blake Lively as Serena and Leighton Meester as Blair, and they've become kind of interwoven. But at the same time, I know that the Chuck in the books is a very different guy than the really nice guy played by Ed Westwick in the television show, and I have to stick with what I created. So I think that's also important for readers to remember when they're reading the books, that they are different characters, and they're younger. The characters in the Gossip Girl books are still in high school, and this is the first book, so they're 17 years old. In the TV show, they're already in their early 20s. They have jobs. They're out of school, so it's like they're living parallel lives. I know I've seen mothers picking up Gossip Girl Psycho Killer and going like, what is all this blood? But I think right away you understand that it's meant to be a satire, it's funny, and all you have to do is read the book to understand that. And there is no gun violence. It's just a very different thing from what I think everyone really is worried about with violence and kids and everything. It's fiction, and hopefully it's even literature. With Girls, the TV show, and Sex and the City, and the film Bridesmaids, it seems like a lot of people are realizing now that women can be funny, you know. Wow. And so it's something that I think Gossip Girl is part of that. But it's not really a trend. I think it's been a sort of gradual process, and you know, like any kind of trends or kind of waves in culture, like it'll go back then to like there's nothing about people won't be surprised about women being funny anymore. It'll be like, oh yeah, of course. But it's great to see that there is a big audience now for shows about women and films about women, and they're not just kind of superficial or just about finding a boyfriend or something like that, that they have larger issues in them. It's been amazing to be here in São Paulo for the biennial book fair, because I feel like nowhere else except in Brazil do the fans have this kind of passion, you know, like they're not shy. Sometimes they're a little nervous, or like they're so excited they're like shaking. But I mean, I feel like Madonna. I mean, I've never experienced this before in my life where I've ever felt writers don't have that kind of people running after them and trying to like touch them. I mean, this happens here. So, and just signing books for so long and seeing so many fans, and it's just so great. I mean, it makes me want to cry to see how passionate they are about the books, and they're bringing me letters and little presents, and it's just really great. It's fantastic. I feel like I should move here, because then I could just, you know, be famous all the time.